Dexter.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Such a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Charles.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying all of your things. I mean, what a year you've been having. Boy,
Thank
you know,
you.
I think of this time, it's like, what am I getting done right now? But you seem to be really on top of things. Are we right now, we're in your, or are we not in your closet?
We're in my
Slash,
closet recording studio. Yeah, this is
yeah,
the infamous blank wall that we can record these interviews on. So it's pretty great.
the closet, the self-tape wall,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm using the self-tape ring light. I'm actually using my camera as to fix my hair to make sure everything's straight, you know.
very nice, very nice.
But yeah, this is the self-tape ring light in the wall. And yeah, a lot of auditions have been filmed in this room. So
Awesome. Well,
it's also my sneaker closet, which works well as well.
yeah, well, you keep popping up in all this great stuff that I enjoyed. Saved by the Bell was such a banger. I really enjoyed it. Your sense of tone on the show was incredible.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Charles. That
Uh,
means a lot.
I liked the binge a lot. I was really enjoying that. I thought it was a cool movie.
Thank you. I
Again,
mean, the binge is it's a very different film in terms of like the comedy and what you dive into. But if you're willing to commit to that world, it's a heck of a ride, and I think a lot of people really enjoy it. So
you're playing John Lewis.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got to do the Maze Runner. You were actually the host, sort of the moderator for that as well too.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's been a really crazy year. It's been a really crazy year, and I mean, 2020 has kind of inspired people to be vocal and to just take initiative into their own hands. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of some really cool casts and have some really great castmates who are totally down for that. So when the opportunity proposed itself for us to be able to do a table read of the first movie, people hadn't seen our entire cast together in almost 6 or 7 years. So me and Chris Sheffield got together, we rallied the troops, and I just hosted the thing, and so it was pretty great.
What did it mean to see everyone again? I'd forgotten. I saw the movie and it was such a talented cast. But then you look at everybody and you're like, these are all like awesome people doing awesome things.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being 100% transparent, we don't go too long without seeing each other anyway. We truly are a family, and that's part of the reason why I think the first movie was the movies were such a success, is because Wes Ball, our director, really went above and beyond to cast people who he knew would just be able to gel and mend. And so we don't go too long without seeing each other, but seeing us all together reading that material was like, whoa, it was a bit of a shock. And we brought back so much joy and happiness. We even we had our own separate Zoom afterwards, after the table read, where we recounted memories and all that kind of stuff, which was pretty awesome.
Right on, right on. So let's start off with Saved by the Bell. It feels like it just exists within the pocket. It's such a great show in terms of what it's trying to do, self-referential, but also quite serious, funny when it needs to be. You're so great as Devonta. You get to sing in the first episode. Yeah. And I know you have a singing background, but it kind of comes as a bit of a surprise. What did this show mean to you?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, this is the first interview I've been able to talk about me singing, because it's been a surprise for, we're doing all the press leading up to it, and it's been a surprise. And so now that all the episodes are out, at least the pilot, people have seen it, I can actually talk about it. It means a lot to me to be able to show off the fact that, music is a big part of my life. Grew up singing in church, and I love doing music. I write music now. So having the opportunity to provide that to such a character with such depth and meaning to it was really special. And Saved by the Bell is that. It's exactly that. It's providing depth in moments where we didn't know it existed. It's providing humor to help teach a lesson to somebody who might not necessarily receive it otherwise. And so it's really awesome to be a part of that show and to have that experience and be a part of that cast that's bringing true messages and true stories like gentrification, social injustice, racial injustice, all to the light, and talking about it in a really cool way.
What was your favorite moment of filming?
I gotta say, entering into the Max and sitting down and shooting that scene with the six of us all at the Max was really great, because having Mario and Elizabeth there, it was really great to just have have them give us the green light to be like, you guys are the new six, this is the new generation. So that was pretty nostalgic, but also just working with the original cast. I grew up being a fan for the show, and so a fan of the show, and now having the opportunity to be a part of it is really special.
A lot of the characters sort of have a link or sort of someone tied to them, but you're doing your own thing. I mean, we don't even know that much about your character right now. A bit of a mystery. So what do you kind of lean into when you're playing him? You're a bit of a mystery man.
Well, I think the levels to him and how androgynistic he is in the sense of being mysterious and, like you said, the mystery man. Every show I feel like every show really needs that character who people don't know what they quite are yet. You know what I mean? Like, even in the history of television and having the opportunity to finally be somebody who can be that character, like when you watch The Office, it's like Jim is just the kind of the guy who's the center ground point in this weird conglomerate of people. And so when I had the opportunity to portray Devontae, I really, really wanted to bring that to light. I really wanted to say, what, this guy he's a bit different than everybody else, and I want to keep watching to figure out why.
Right on. So what do you feel like in terms of your projects? You've jumped genres, you're doing different things, playing different roles, different kinds of characters. What do you like to do? I mean, do you kind of try to do different things every time? Do you look for specific projects? What guides you?
Well, Devontae, I mean, not even just Devontae, but Hags in The Binge, or playing John Lewis and playing Devontae who sings in high school. I think the key that I really want to try to transpose and provide the audience with is diversity. And I pride myself on being able to be experienced and well articulate and also well versed in many styles of acting, because I've also grown up being a massive fan of all different kinds of acting. Like, my favorite movie of all time is Rush Hour, but my second favorite movie is Shawshank Redemption. Like, two polar opposite kind of dramatic, like dramedy action film versus like strict drama with some minor comedy inputs in Shawshank. And so I really just been a sponge of material. And so, like when you look at guys like a Samuel L. Jackson, or you look at guys like a Jamie Foxx, you don't really limit them to one category, because you truly believe that they can do it all. And I hope that I could just continue to paint that kind of picture for myself in this industry.
Right on. And you present different looks too, in The Binge, you're very open, sort of agreeable, we want to laugh along with you. You invite yourself into the audience. So I thought that was really cool, and Saved by the Bell, you're a little more closed off, but at the same time, you're not excluding people.
Yeah.
You want to keep people kind of in on the joke a little bit, right? It's a very winky show, and you still kind of maintain that. What do you bring for different performances? How open do you make yourself?
Well, between Devontae and Hags, I think people are seeing both sides of Dexter Darden as a human. Like the outgoing, boisterous, life of the party, what you see is what you get, is definitely a side of me that exists. I feel like God has granted me with these tools to be able to bring joy and laughter to certain people in certain areas where they might not necessarily be used to receiving it. And so that's one side, and that's the Hags, right? The guy who you just want to root for. And then the other side of Dexter Darden is the scholastic mathematic nerd who likes to sit back and like do puzzles and play chess. And like, I think Devontae is that guy as well. So I think everybody needs somebody to relate to. And I'm very fortunate to be in a career where I can play people who people feel like they can relate to. And, so I'm just hoping that everybody finds a little bit of themselves in these characters that I bring to screen.
What does sort of the co-stars or the screen partners' energy mean to you? With Josie, for example, you're bringing something very different. What does it mean to sort of interact with your fellow cast members and kind of build that in that way?
Well, with Josie specifically, that's my little sister. I love her to death. Like I love that woman so much, and she's just growing. And it's hard to believe that she's only 19 and has the whole entire world in front of her. And she's such a trailblazer in her own right. But she's also a comedic genius, right? So it's like when you're working with somebody who is that comedically gifted, you say, okay, what is my role in this scene, and how can I support them? You know what I mean? And so by supporting them, if me and her have a two-hander scene, whatever we do together, it's going to bring the scene to another, to a level elevation that people are really, really excited to look forward to. And then we have those beautiful moments, like when in episode 6, when we're sitting down and we're grounded and, you know, the moment's a bit more heavy, it allows the audience to go on that journey with us, because that's really how we feel.
And how did you feel with the original cast members kind of weaving throughout the story, you know?
You know, it's great. You know, like I said, I was such a fan of the original show. So when Mark Paul came back for the first time, I remember looking at him and being like, oh my gosh, like that is Zach Morris. You know, like you are Zach Morris. But having the opportunity to work with Mario and Elizabeth every day, having them be series regulars every day, it's really great, because, you know, the nostalgia and the history of what they did can't be duplicated. It just can't. You know, it came at such a specific time in the 90s, and they finally were able to catch lightning in the bottle. So all we're trying to do is really just transfer that over into 2020, because even though we love Saved in the 90s, it won't work right now. You know, like too many things need to be said that will probably be glossed over in the 90s. And so I think we're finding ways to be able to recreate that magic in our own little nuance.
Right on. Cool theme song as well too. Lil Yachty does a version of
Shout
it.
out to Lil Yachty. Yeah.
And you know, Tracy guides the show in such an interesting direction. To be able to balance all of those things, I think, is incredible. You know, what does sort of bringing it into this age mean for you and with this team?
She's a genius. Tracey Wigfield and Franco Barrio, who was the executive producer of the original Saved by the Bell. But also having Tracy just be at the helm and really listening, and like really, you know, when coming to write for Devontae, when I auditioned, yes, he sang in the original script, but they only had the pilot written. They hadn't had the other 9 episodes. So once I got the role of Devontae, Tracy was so open to just collaborating and saying, okay, what do you think? Like, I think he should have headphones in every scene, or like, I think that there should be little things to show that he's closed off from the world because he struggles with those minor insecurities. Are you receptive of that, Tracy? And she's like, yeah, let's incorporate it. So I think another part of the brilliance is that true team collaborative effort that helps. You know, it's not one brain that is trying to tell these stories or portray that message. It's a conglomerate. It's a whole team. So I think it's really awesome that we had the opportunity to work with her and her genius. And while she was doing it while she was 7, 8, 9 months pregnant. Like, she gave birth during the filming of episode 6. So yeah,
Wow.
literally. So she's a Wonder Woman. She's a superhero. And so we were really, really lucky to have her as the captain of our ship.
Going to ask what kind of joy, you know, what gives you the joy? You know, when you're in projects, how do you feel? Do you enjoy watching them, maybe after being in them? You know, where do you feel like you've sort of hit that mark?
Well, my mentor and the person who really kind of got me into acting is a legendary actor by the name of Paul Newman. And before I really started, and like I was doing fundraisers for his camps, and then as I told him I was like 16, and my mom and I had a conversation about how I really wanted to start pursuing this professionally. And he goes, okay, just remember, auditioning is the job and getting the job is the reward. And so for the majority of my life, I don't know if that's something that he's always said, or if that was something that he just told me and it just resonated with me and stuck with me. So for a majority of my life, whenever I'm auditioning, that is my job. And then the reward is just having the opportunity to create with, you know, the Forrest Whitakers of the world, or create with the newer generation, like the Alicias or the Josies of the world, and having the opportunity to kind of just collaborate with these other brilliantly talented writers and directors and actors, and hope to find really cool nuances and performances that can resonate with people. So the joy just comes from me being able to do what I love to do. And so I think that's kind of just what sits home with me.
So I think I'd seen that on your bio, on your page, when you talked about that, going to Paul Newman's The Hole in the Wall Gang Camp. So it really does make a difference. Arts education at a very early age.
100%. And I mean, like, I didn't even go to the camp out of the hope of pursuing arts. I went to the camp because Paul Newman's Hole in the Wall Gang Camp is a camp for kids with special needs and blood diseases. And I have sickle cell anemia. And so I was really going through a very, very rough time when I was 8. My father had passed away, and I was in and out of the hospital. And the doctors asked my mom was like, I don't know what to do. I'm worried I'm going to lose my son. And they said, we think you should send him to this camp. And then while at the camp, I started pursuing things like basketball and archery and fishing. And then they have this thing at the end of every week called stage night. And I just went up and I said, I want to perform at stage night. And so I got up and I did a Michael Jackson impersonation, and kind of that's when I really realized that I got bitten with the bug, and the rest is history from there. But you know, those little life lessons in terms of what you think starts out as one thing, which is a getaway from a kid who's been tragically ill, is now turning into a career for somebody who's hoping to continue to be on screen and do things that he loves to do.
What does that mean for, and I was going to ask you too, what does that mean for you in terms of, certainly for the platform that you have, for the outreach for sickle cell anemia, how do you sort of weave that in through your work?
Well, sickle cell is not a disease that is predominantly publicized, you know, because it affects such a specific community, in terms of the minority community. And so, because not many people outside of the minority community are affected by the disease, it doesn't necessarily get the publication that most chronic terminal blood illnesses do. So as I have a platform and as I continue to grow in my career, one thing that I really want to do is help educate people on sickle cell awareness and how we're not far from a cure, and also how it is taking thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives every year, and it just kind of goes under the radar. And so I think that that is kind of one of those things that I know I'm positioned to do with my platform, in terms of just educating people on sickle cell, how it affects people, and you know, why it's not on your TVs every day as it should be.
And lastly, Saved by the Bell, you get away with some fun things. It's a really cool show in that way. It's some things I wasn't expecting to see. What do you like to do in that way? The binge as well. Do you like to push the envelope a little bit? Do you like to just dive right in and have fun?
Yeah, man, I do like to push the envelope, because I think society now, because of how woke it is, which is great, and because of the conversations that people are having, which is great, a lot of people are afraid to say things which or do things because they don't want to be judged or ridiculed on social media, or have a tweet about them that goes viral. And myself, I'm like, listen, people are having these conversations behind closed doors, so why not just bring them all out and put them on Front Street so that we can have them in general? I mean, what society would be like if they did ban drugs and alcohol for 364 days of the year, but that one day people were allowed to do that? Like, what kind of control? How many DUIs would be lesser than, all those kinds of things? And also, what would happen if you just took kids from the inner city and took them to a school like Malibu High or Bayside? Like, how would the world react? How will we shake things up? So I think the reason I'm not afraid to push the envelope is because I'm not afraid to shake things up. I'm not afraid to have transparent conversations of what I believe needs to be said, or what I believe people are afraid to talk about.
Well, I was just going to say, I've really enjoyed this conversation. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I really wanted to wish you the best from here. I'm so excited to get a chance to do this.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being so well educated on everything that's happening in my career and my life, man. It's really nice to sit down and have a conversation with somebody who is so well versed on the career of Dexter Darden. So it's really great. Thank you, man. I appreciate your time.